Most men think danger looks like rage, noise, or violence. That's the lie. The truly dangerous man is almost invisible. He doesn't shout. He doesn't threaten. He doesn't rush. And if you're honest with yourself, the moment you begin to recognize these traits inside you is the moment your old way of thinking starts to collapse. Because danger is not something you do, it's something you become. And most men never realize it's happening until the world around them starts responding differently to their presence. You were taught that being good, agreeable, predictable would make you safe. You were told to be harmless. But Machiavelli warned centuries ago that a man who can only be good is doomed among those who are not. You live in a world where power is exercised quietly, where influence moves through silence, where outcomes are decided long before words are spoken. And when you begin to shift internally, when your psychology hardens and sharpens, the world senses it before you announce it. People feel it. They adjust. They become cautious, or curious, or afraid. The first sign is subtle, almost uncomfortable. You stop explaining yourself. Not because you're angry, not because you're arrogant, but because you've realized explanation is a form of permission. Weak men narrate their decisions to feel validated. Dangerous men decide, then let reality speak for them. You notice you no longer rush to justify your choices, your boundaries, your silence. When questioned, you respond briefly, if at all. This unsettles people. They're used to access. They're used to seeing inside you. But now there's a locked door, and they don't have the key. Machiavelli understood this well. Power weakens when it becomes transparent. Mystery creates gravity. When you stop explaining, people begin projecting. They fill the silence with their own assumptions. Some assume confidence. Some assume threat. Some assume depth. And here is the dangerous part: you let them. You realize perception is not something to correct, but something to manage. And just as you begin to feel comfortable with this shift, there is a deeper, more dangerous truth we haven't touched yet. You begin to feel less emotional turbulence. Things that once provoked you no longer reach your nervous system. Insults fall flat. Praise barely registers. You don't suppress emotion, you outgrow reactivity. This is not numbness, it's regulation. Stoics wrote about this state as in a citadel. Machiavelli would call it strategic composure. A man who cannot be provoked cannot be controlled. And control is the true currency of power. People test this. They poke. They say things designed to get a reaction. They expect defensiveness, justification, anger. But your face remains still. Your voice steady. Your eyes observant. This is when they begin to feel uneasy. Because emotion is how most people read intent. When emotion disappears, they don't know where you stand. And uncertainty makes people cautious. You start noticing something else. You listen more than you speak. Not because you're shy, because you've learned information is asymmetric. Every word you withhold is power retained. Every word someone else reveals is leverage gained. You stop trying to be interesting and start becoming interested. You notice patterns in speech, inconsistencies in stories, emotional spikes around certain topics. You see who needs validation, who seeks dominance, who hides insecurity behind humor. This is where Machiavellian psychology becomes real, not theoretical. You realize most people tell on themselves if you give them enough silence. And silence, when paired with presence, becomes interrogation without accusation. But there is a deeper, more dangerous truth we haven't touched yet. Your goals change. You stop chasing recognition. You stop craving applause. You start building quietly. While others announce, you execute. While others post, you prepare. You realize attention is volatile, but results are permanent. This makes you unpredictable. People can no longer track your trajectory. They can't measure you. And what cannot be measured cannot be managed. Dangerous men operate on long timelines. You start thinking in years, not weeks. Moves are layered. Sacrifices are calculated. You're willing to appear behind if it positions you ahead later. This is deeply unsettling to a world addicted to immediacy. Most men need constant proof they're winning. You learn to win in private, and then something shifts socially. People start treating you differently. They ask your opinion more carefully. They laugh a little louder at your jokes. They hesitate before disagreeing, not because you demand dominance, but because your presence carries weight. Weight is not volume, it's density. You speak less, but when you do, it lands. This is when you realize respect is not negotiated, it's perceived, and perception is shaped by consistency. You do what you say. You don't overpromise. You don't overreact. Reliability mixed with restraint creates authority. Machiavelli knew that fear and love are tools, but respect is the foundation that allows both to function. And just when you think this is the peak, there is a deeper, more dangerous truth we haven't touched yet. You become selective with empathy. This is controversial, but crucial. You stop giving emotional energy indiscriminately. You realize empathy without boundaries is self-destruction. You still understand people. You still read emotions. But you no longer absorb them. You choose where your compassion flows, and where it doesn't. This makes you seem colder to some. But colder is not cruel. It's disciplined. You've learned that rescuing others often robs them of growth. Machiavelli would say mercy, when misapplied, becomes weakness. You begin allowing people to face the consequences of their actions. Not out of spite, out of respect for reality. You notice manipulation faster now. Emotional bait doesn't work. Guilt tactics bounce off. You recognize when someone is trying to control you through obligation or fear. And instead of confronting them emotionally, you disengage strategically. Nothing terrifies a manipulator more than losing access to your reactions. Your time becomes sacred. You protect it ruthlessly. Not aggressively, but unapologetically. You say no without drama. You leave situations early. You don't linger where your energy is drained. This sends a signal you value yourself, and people treat you accordingly. But there is a deeper, more dangerous truth we haven't touched yet. You begin to see morality differently, not as a list of rules, but as context. You understand that rigid goodness can be exploited. You learn that sometimes the most ethical choice looks harsh in the moment. You stop performing virtue and start practicing effectiveness. This doesn't mean you become immoral. It means you become realistic. Machiavelli was misunderstood because people confuse description with endorsement. He didn't say be evil. He said understand evil. because a man blind to darkness is easily consumed by it. You now see power dynamics everywhere. In conversations, in relationships, in institutions. And because you see them, you are no longer naive within them. Your confidence deepens, but it's quieter. You no longer need to prove strength. You embody it. Weak men announce dominance. Dangerous men let others discover it slowly. And discovery is always more powerful than declaration. You become comfortable being misunderstood. This is a major sign. You no longer rush to correct false narratives. You let people underestimate you. You let them think you're simpler, softer, slower than you are. Because underestimation is strategic advantage. History is full of men who survived because their enemies misread them. This is where patience becomes lethal. You wait, you observe, you gather, and when you move, it's decisive. No hesitation, no apology, just action. People often mistake this for luck. But you know better. Luck is preparation colliding with opportunity. And just as you start to recognize yourself in these words, there is a deeper, more dangerous truth we haven't touched yet. You stop seeking external permission to exist as you are. You no longer ask society, friends, or family who you should be. You define your own code. This is terrifying to systems built on compliance. A self-directed man is difficult to control. He cannot be easily shamed, rushed, or intimidated. You accept solitude as a price of clarity. Not loneliness, but distance. You realize most people are uncomfortable around men who don't need them emotionally. This isn't arrogance. It's independence. And independence is magnetic to some and threatening to others. You begin training your body and mind with intention, not for aesthetics, for capability. Strength becomes practical. Endurance becomes mental. You prepare for stress instead of avoiding it. Because you know pressure reveals character, and you want yours forged, not fragile. Your language changes. You speak in statements, not qualifiers. You remove unnecessary apologies. You don't soften truths to protect egos. You tell the truth cleanly, then allow others to react as they will. This alone separates you from the average. You begin to see fear as information, not something to avoid, but something to analyze. Fear points to growth. Fear marks boundaries worth expanding. Instead of running, you lean in. This rewires you. The nervous system adapts. What once felt overwhelming now feels manageable. And what feels manageable becomes boring. But there is a deeper, more dangerous truth we haven't touched yet. You realize danger is not about domination. It's about optionality. You always have choices. You are never trapped. You can walk away. You can stay. You can escalate or disengage. Freedom of action is the highest form of power. And it comes from preparation, not bravado. You stop romanticizing chaos. You bring order where you go. Your presence stabilizes rooms, not because you control others, but because you control yourself. People sense this and align unconsciously. Leaders emerge not by force, but by coherence. You understand that being dangerous is not about harming others. It's about being capable of it and choosing restraint. A man incapable of harm is not good. He's harmless, and harmless men are not respected. They are managed. You carry yourself differently now. Slower movements, direct eye contact, comfortable silence. You are grounded, rooted, hard to rush, hard to sway, hard to break, and this is when the final realization settles in. The world is not afraid of loud men. It's wary of quiet ones, the ones who see clearly, who move deliberately, who cannot be easily read. You are becoming that man, and whether you intended it or not, the process has already begun. So ask yourself this carefully. When you walk into a room now, do people feel calmer or more alert? Do they speak freely or choose words more carefully? Do they test you or observe you? Because the moment you stop trying to be harmless is the moment you start becoming dangerous. And that brings us back to the beginning. Most men think danger looks like rage, noise, or violence. But now you know the truth. The truly dangerous man is almost invisible.